Alright, what we have here, a customer contacted me about throwing strings on his guitar. So I was like, alright, no problem. Showed me a picture, and as soon as I saw it was a Jackson, I knew what the problem was. It was the, it must have a Floyd Rose. And sure enough, it has a Floyd Rose. And these things are infamous, if not world famous, for being pains in the asses to change the strings. Because what you have here is you have... Nope. Let me take this off and I'll show you here what you got. It's pretty new. It still has the scratch guard protector on the screw holes. That's cool. Alright. Now... Alright, let's pull this off, see what we got under here. Come on. She doesn't want to come off of there. We'll get it off of there. Always protect the surface of the guitar, whether it's yours or customers. It's the stupidest reason to have scratches on it. Because you were too lazy to do something. So, pop this up out of here. There we go. And here is what we got. Now, what I was saying about the Floyd Rose is it's what's called a floating tremolo system, which means it's held in place by string tension and spring tension. So these screws are the contact point for the springs, which allow your tremolo to move back and forth. That way you can dive or go up the other way. But what happens when you go to change the strings is people will just cut the strings like it's a normal guitar, and since there's no string tension, this thing will just flop over that way. And then when you go to restring it, the string tension on new strings is always tighter than old strings because the old strings have had time to stretch out and loosen. So when you put the new ones on and you leave this at the same height, it's going to cock up even more because the strings are tighter. So there's a way around that. And that way around it is, you get yourself a little block of wood, probably half inch or 5/8 of an inch thick, that's gonna fit into this thing. And then you just lift up your tremolo, and you slide this under there. And what that's gonna do, I wrapped mine in felt so it wouldn't damage any finish, but you can use a regular piece of wood too. What that's gonna do is that's gonna hold this in place so that when I loosen the strings, it's only gonna go so far. That way, it'll be all the less monkeying around I have to do back here. All right? There you can see it. Felt right back there. Now we got locking tremolo. So all these lock nuts have to come off. A lot of people won't even realize what this is for, and they'll leave these loose or take them off or something, or not have the Allen wrench key for it, and then you're like, okay, now how you can get your strings off? I didn't think that far ahead. So those are off. Now these, I could tell that this was monkeyed around with by probably somebody who didn't really know what they were doing, because this intonation looks real far off. But what I'm gonna do is, usually on just a string change I won't go through all this fuss, but I'm gonna help this guy out because he's letting me use the footage for video. All right, see, here's another thing. All these are fine tuners. Once you get the guitar in tune and it's pretty close, you stretch the strings and everything seems to be in tune. You put the locking mechanism back on the nut. Then these things are fine tuners. These will get you, I think the range is like 10 or 15 cents. Each cent is a point on your tuner. But with these all the way up, there's no way for you to go any lower. This is as low as it can get. So if I put the strings on and leave these all the way up, and you need to bring the pitch up just a hair to get it this, you're not going to be able to do it. So what I'll do is I'll find the medium. Okay, so this is all the way up. This is all the way down. So I'm going to put this right about halfway. So you got some room to go up and you got room to go down. I'm going to adjust these all before I even take the strings off, because I know that that's where I'm going to want to be. And I don't want to forget. Alright, so those are all halfway. So that should be good. Now we can start taking these strings off. Ooh, this one's just hanging on by a thread there. Get rid of that. A lot of people will just sit there and cut them. I don't like relieving the tension that fast. Technically, it's not going to hurt it, but there's always that one chance in a million. And that one chance in a million will always happen on a customer's guitar. It'll never happen on your own. So, why even take the chance? Now you can see this is falling down as I loosen the tension on it with the strings. Now the way I got the block sizes, I measured my Floyd Rose, and that's what I got for that. And that's just about perfect for this one too. And then what you do is you come down here to these little guys. These actually hold this end of the string in place. And you just want to loosen them up just enough to get the string out. Sometimes they get stuck in there. Yank them out. And this end is just held in by pressure. You have a square block right in here that's being pushed in with this screw against the flat part of the bridge on this side. And then you have these screws right here, which will move your saddles back and forth. It's to help with intonation. I won't get into that right now on this. That's a whole nother issue. And yeah, you move your saddle back, or you move your saddle forwards if your intonation is too high, and you move it back if it's too low, and it'll bring it up and down accordingly. So these are set at halfway. These are ready for new strings. I just want to check the flatness of the fretboard first. And to check right here, this wire coming out of here, that's a ground for your pickups. It's grounded to the tremolo itself. Every part of the guitar needs to be grounded. So that's good to see. Yeah, the fretboard's a little beat up. Not all that bad, but got a factory straight edge here. And we can see that what we have okay, a lot of people will say there's a bow in this, but it's not. What it is it's all the frets are flat up to here, and then they have what's called relief, where these frets here are dipped down a little lower to help so that you can get the action down without these frets messing everything up. So fretboard looks fine. Let me, I don't have to mess with the truss rod. Let me go get some fret polish, and I'll just clean up the fretboard, get that looking better. Okay, you're just going to want to get some fret cleaner. This I got from Crimson Guitars out of the UK, and it's just to get all the gunk off the fretboard itself. Don't want to use anything harsh on it. Something just mild, just to get the job done. And then you want to go back over it a couple times with a dry cloth just to make sure you got it all off. And then hit it with a fret restorative, which is an oil type product, usually lemon oil or something along that lines. And what that does is it re-moisturizes the wood in the fretboard and keeps it from cracking. Because with the changes in humidity, especially upstate New York, our humidity can go from one extreme to another, so you get all that garbage off of there in a matter of minutes. So anything helps. These frets aren't looking too bad. They're getting a bunch of stuff up from underneath and beneath them and around them. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a quick polish on these frets. I don't usually do it on a string change. Usually it's a setup type thing, but I don't know. As long as I'm on video and doing it, might as well. Alright, now what I'm doing here goes more into the realm of a full setup, but I think this guitar can benefit from this. What I'm doing is I'm just gonna run a quick polish on the frets just to give them some new life and shine. Always makes them look a little better. Now, in order to save tape, I'm doing the fat fret up here and then using what I cut off to do the smaller frets on that side instead of wasting a lot. You want to butt it right up tight to the fret and increase the fret next to it. Give it a slice that way. And a slice that way. You don't want to slice into the fretboard itself. You just want to put the knife at an angle. So what it's actually doing is it's cutting underneath the fret. So that way you're not leaving any marks or anything on the guitar. Alright, you may ask now why this piece I'm not using for one of those. It's because I don't have a factory edge. There's no straight factory edge, I don't want to use it. Because when I'm using this, I'll use this top for a factory edge. And then I use this bottom as a factory edge to go along the frets themselves. That way you're guaranteed a straight line along the frets. Alright, so what else I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the pickups. Alright, now take a little bit of polish and just run it along your fret. I usually do 3-4 frets, and then I'll use the Dremel to polish them, and then I'll go to the next 4, and then I'll do the next 4. And goop up the next 4. You don't need an awful lot, just a smidgen. And what this is, with the shinier the fret is, the smoother it is. The less pockets it has in it, the less grip it'll have on your strings. So your strings will actually slide over them better. Alright, that should do that. He's still pulling off gunk and dirt. But when I take this tape off, you'll see that it does look a whole lot better. Alright, let's take the tape off. There we go. Now, as you can see, they look a whole lot better. Neck looks better. Just check for any kind of damage. Get the dust off. Just generally clean it. Always give a good clean when you take your strings off and place them. See, and with all this moving around we're doing with the guitar and shifting it and everything else, this is still staying in the same place. Which is the #1 thing that this video is about, is to change the strings without disrupting that tremolo too much. Because it is a bitch and a half to straighten out once it gets wonky. I like to get in between the pickups really good, because they usually only get done when there's a string change. Because it's the only time you can get to them. Alright, so we got that. pop this piece off here. We're just gonna do a quick body polish. As long as we got all this stuff off, might as well do a quick one. I just use regular car polish on my painted bodies. And then just like a car, circular motions. So you cover it all. And then you buff it out. Pretty simple. Now I'll get a dry one. And do some buffing. And you'll feel it when you get the wax off. It's really slick. When you're still buffing and you still have some product on there, it's kind of like gummy, almost like a glue. But once you know you're done buffing is when it gets really, really easy to move your towel, and it's just gliding off the surface. Now I'm going to leave this off because there is most likely 99% of the time there is some tweaking to do with the tremolo system and the springs. So I'm just going to leave this off for now so I have access to it. But now that I have the rest of the guitar looking decent, now we can do what we set out to do. Oh, let me hit the headstock here real fast. As long as I'm here. This is another area that very seldom gets cleaned unless the strings are off, simply because you can't get to it. So I always try to at least clean the headstock and under the pickups, no matter what I'm doing. The presentation is always 90% of the job. It's like when you take your car to get fixed, even though they may not do anything under the hood, if they wipe up some of the grease, make it look really nice and pretty, and you go to look under the hood and it looks like they did a good job even though they didn't do anything there. So it's just common courtesy. So strings, he's gone with a 10 gauge set of strings right up the middle. Now a lot of people will, or I've seen some people put the ball end up here and just run the string down and stick it in there. I mean, I've even done it on occasion when I was playing, but it's just as easy. I mean, the string is the string all the way around. It's not going to make a difference which way you put it in. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to get to actually stringing this thing up. If you notice, I clipped the ball end off, and we're going to start putting these in one at a time. Now again, it goes, you may have to loosen it up a little more. Oh, that's right, this one broke. That's why this one's still tight. Loosen it up, that draws that block back. Get your string in there, right in the middle. And then tighten it back up. Alright. And I'll just run this up here. in through the end and then tie off the string. Always remember to tie off the string. Okay? And then what I do is I'll do the 2 E strings first. Pull them up, and that'll give you a baseline for where this is going to sit. So we got the fat E string here. Gonna clip off the bell, I call it. And then put that end right in where it goes here. Push the block back. Sometimes the blocks don't like to move back, so you got to push them back, wiggle them back with the spring. It also helps if you use the right Allen wrench. There we go. Now this screw isn't connected to this block. See, I can move the block back and forth. It's not actually screwed into the block. It's just used as pressure on the block. So another thing to make sure is when you have these loose, do not flip the guitar over, because you will lose those little tiny blocks. I guarantee it. And that will ruin your night. All right, now we are going to get some tension here. I always flare out my fingers. That way it doesn't put any kinks in the string. And you always stretch them. But be careful when you're stretching them, you're not putting kinks in the string. Once you kink the string, it's shot. See right here? It bent on me. If I don't cut this off, it's gonna break as soon as I go to tune it up. So get rid of that. Alright, now that that's in tune, take the block out. And then we'll see if we have any finagling to do over here. Which we do, as you can tell, this is still way up there again. So we're going to flip it over. Loosen up these screws. Just about 1/8 of a turn. Don't do it evenly. Flip it over and retune it. Flip it back over, and we're just going to keep doing this until it levels itself back out again. Keep tightening these screws. We'll pull these springs, which will pull this plate. And while it's pulling the plate this way, it flattens out the tremolo. But as you're pulling this back, you're also increasing the tension on the string, so you gotta keep going back and forth. It looks like these are riding high. So we're going to take these down a little bit, which will probably greatly increase playability, bringing the strings closer to the fretboard. Still come down a little more. Now, since I'm not sure what he really plays on this, I can't really adjust the action too much. If he's a chord player, you're not really going to want him that low. If he's a solo player, then he's going to want him low. So do a little bit more. Alright, now check the string tension. And that is just about perfect. You can see the top of the Floyd Rose is parallel with the body on that side. Same on that side. And just check one more time for string tension. I'm going to tune them a little high because when I go back I'm going to intonate. So if it's going to do anything, it's going to stretch, which means it's going to get lower. check the height. Fret your first fret, go to the third fret, and there should be just a hair of movement. That's about as low as this one's going to get. It could go a little lower, but this is as low as I'm going to take it for now. See how he likes that. Now, once it's in tune and the tremolo is set, that's 90% of the battle. Put your locking tuners back in. You don't have to go ape shit on these. Just snug is fine. And then guess what we're going to do? We're going to check the tuning again. Except this time we're going to adjust it down here. This is why we moved it to half instead of all the way out. So you're going to turn them in to go higher, back them off to go lower. Even though we tuned them all sharp the last time, you can see the meter. They're all a half a pitch short. I don't know where that fly came from, but he's gone. Keeps going out of tune isn't because they're new strings, it's because it's fighting with this tremolo system. As soon as you find the equilibrium, then you're all set. But if you notice, it's still dropping on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift these back up to the middle. And retune it. At least these bass strings here, because they're already pegged out. They're not going to go anymore. So we're going to get up here and use the coarse tuners. Try to get a little sharp. These ones are so close that we're still using the fine tuners. We still have room for those. Alright, once they stay, tighten these back up and go back to the fine tuners. After that, go back to the tailpiece and check it again. Fun, fun, fun. And that is how you change strings with a floating tremolo.